Hey there, Pod Pals. Do you feel like you could use a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or with converting your podcast listeners into becoming your best clients? I want you to head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and watch the 4-minute video that talks about who I help and exactly how I can help them out. Next, I want you to click on the Discovery Call button to set up a free podcast profit potential discovery call where we can talk about working together to help you reach your podcasting and online business goals. Head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for your free podcast profit potential discovery call. What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love your podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. If you're a service provider, coach, consultant looking to learn how to leverage your podcast to build your online business and get more clients, you are in the right spot, Pod Pals. We're doing something special. I did this last year. It worked out really well. So we're doing it again. It's a little year-end wins and Q&A. And the response has been overwhelming. And that has caused me to say this is a part one. And part two will drop on Friday in place of our normal coaching style episode. So this is the last episode of 2024. Friday will be the first episode of 2025. And we're going to kind of do a double wins, part one, part two. So I sent out an email to the list a few weeks ago saying, hey, would love to have you submit your audio with your win of the year in 2024 and a question that you'd like me to answer on the show. And I've selected 12 of these submissions, and I'm going to use all of them, by the way. So they'll be showing up in my newsletter. They'll be showing up on social media. So even if you don't get your question answered on the show, then it'll still get answered in some way, shape, or form, and I'll make sure that you know about it. So thanks to everybody that submitted questions. But we got 6 today. We'll do 6 on Friday, and I love this. I love any time that I get to pull you guys into the show in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, it's just super cool. It's super cool because I remember those early days of podcasting for me, 2015, 16, 17, a lot of crickets. Nobody was listening. Felt very lonely out there in the my podcast ecosystem. So was excited to interact with you all in a format like this. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pull audio clips in that you all submitted. And some people recorded on the phone. Some people recorded when they're, driving in the car. Some people recorded on their professional podcast mics. So we're not too worried about that. I appreciate everybody that submitted. So just handle the audio with a little bit of grace, everybody. All right, I know we're all podcasters here, but I just think that it's super cool that you guys took the time out of your day to submit questions and celebrate your wins together. This is something that does not happen enough in podcasting, is celebrating of wins, large and small. Some people hit major podcast growth milestones. Some people, their win was just getting their show going again. All right. All of those wins need to be celebrated, and that's why I wanted to kind of do this on this episode and the next one. So without any further delay, let's dive into our first podcasting win and question. Here we go.
Hi, this is Aisla from Business as Unusual. My podcasting win of 2024 is my range of guests greatly expanded because more and more people are coming to me to ask to be on the show. Here's my question for Adam. What did you resist in your podcasting journey that you now enthusiastically embrace, and why do you embrace it now?
All right, great question, Aisla. Congrats on your win. Isn't it nice to just feel the podcasting machine starting to work for you? Getting people reaching out, getting some exposure via networking with other guests and things like that. So great job. Now, I hope that you're getting asked to be on some of their shows as well. Make sure that we're doing that. Great question. What did I resist early on that I now embrace, and why is that happening? I'm not going to use the word resist. I'm going to use the word ignore, or kind of like backburnered. I'm going to invent that term. Early on, I kind of backburnered email list building and the importance of that. And this last year has really opened my eyes when it comes to the importance of an email list as a podcaster. Not only do social media networks crash for a day or so, and if your only medium of communication in business is your Instagram profile and Instagram goes out for a day or a day and a half, you could be pretty screwed, especially if you're launching something. I know a lot of people that has happened to. So with podcasting, I like that communication channel, but I like a written form of communication as well. And this year, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I'll mention it again. The thing that really opened my eyes to the power of an email list is I sent one email in March of 2024, and that single email generated over $24,000 of income for me. One email to my list of about 2,000 people. So that really was amazing to me. I was like, wow, I didn't have to do a podcast episode about that. I didn't have to dance around and create an Instagram reel about that. So that really opened my eyes. So now, 2025, big focus is email list growth, nurturing, skill development. Like, I have a great open rate, but I want to get better. I want to be a better written form content creator. So, great question. Congrats on your win. Let's move to the next one.
Hey, this is Dr. Jen Blanchett from the Therapist Burnout Podcast. My biggest win of 2024 was going to do weekly podcast episodes. So I had so much mind drama about this. And in the back of my mind, I hear Adam saying, we can't even stop before episode 100. And at the time of this recording, I'm at episode 50, and I feel like I can do this. So I think that's my biggest win. I'm well over 100 downloads per episode. And I credit that to Adam and to his, work on the podcast, also with working with him in the Download Growth Club and other offerings I've worked with him on in the past. Such a great resource. Thank you, Adam, for your expertise and just the human you are. I just so appreciate that. My question, I think, is how to get more leads on your email address. I've been listening to some of your ideas on that, but I think my growth edge for 2025 is to double my email list. I'm really focused on that. I agree with you on some of your podcast episodes that your business is as strong as your email list. So that's my focus for 2025. And I just want to give you a big thank you, Adam. I appreciate you.
Dr. Jen, congrats on that win of weekly content. That's huge. And I am going to put out more content in 2025 in regards to the topic of efficiency. And I think there's a lot of things that podcasters waste their time on marketing-wise and content creation-wise. And I've really thinned things out big time with my show and my show production. So more on that to come. So congrats on that win. Same topic as my last answer with the email list. I'm glad you're thinking of it. I'm glad that you are keeping that email list top of mind, Jen. And one of the things that I'm going to do this year that I've already started doing is using my newsletter as my core lead magnet. I've never, ever done that before. I've never had that even an opt-in on my website where you're like, hey, just join my newsletter. I've never done that. And I was hit over the head with the frying pan of truth on Threads by a guy named Mike Romaine, who I hired to help me out with all this, with Threads and newsletters. But he challenged us. He's like, make your newsletter your main lead magnet. And I'm like, this makes so much sense. I've got this newsletter that's got a really loyal following. I've got a giant open rate, like 70+% open rate. I've got a list that is growing. I'm focusing on growing my list. Why not make that the core piece of content that attracts people in? So I'm learning how to do that. So it'll start with creating a really high value newsletter. Most people's newsletter is just promotion. And if you're going to use it as a lead magnet, it can't be that. It's got to be high value. Lots of takeaways that they can't get anywhere else. So that's what I'm building with my Thursday newsletter. And so that's one way that I'm really going to make a push to grow my email list is by actually promoting my newsletter. My strategy that I'm using right now is the day before. So Wednesdays, my newsletter goes out on Thursday. The day before, on Wednesday, I'll go on social media and say, hey, here's an issue that podcasters or online business owners or both need to be aware of. I'm going to do a full breakdown on my newsletter tomorrow. If you're on my list, here's the link to get on my list. Simple. I'm going to do that every single Wednesday in 2025. And you guys know me. I'm Mr. Consistency. If I decide something is important and I'm going to do it, then I will execute on that and implement ferociously and tenaciously. So that is the game plan for getting a email list boost from my actual newsletter that I'm putting in. All right, next question.
This is Dr. Steve Hewlett from Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss. My podcasting win for 2024 was interviewing a sugar addiction specialist on our podcast, who afterwards invited me to be one of the over 40 expert panelists on his annual online Quit Sugar Summit. If I had not learned everything I know about podcasting from Adam and his podcasting business school, I never would have had the opportunity to reach over 50,000 people with one interview. Here's my question for Adam. When advertising this Quit Sugar Summit on our podcast, should we only advertise in our intro and outro, or should we also say something during all the actual podcasts we do up until the time of the summit? And I also can't leave without saying thank you so much to Adam. We appreciate everything he does for us.
Dr. Steve, what a win. First off, I'm proud of this guy. I've been helping Dr. Steve with his show since launch over 100 episodes ago. And we've been coaching ever since. And I'm just really super proud of the growth that he's seen. And, you know, this dude is an implementer. And that's what it takes in podcasting. You can't just launch and hope for the best. You have to launch and implement and work and tweak and adjust and micro adjust and rebrand and pivot and just be willing to try new things. And Dr. Steve is definitely doing all that stuff. So congrats on getting that opportunity. And that's the power of podcasting and networking. That's something that is overlooked in the industry, where a lot of people seem to be chasing wins like sponsorship. But I think that what you've got here is a real opportunity to get exposure that can lead to online business growth. So let's talk about this promotion of this summit. So you're participating in the summit, and yeah, mentioning it in the intros and outros with a singular, simple call to action. That definitely makes sense leading up to the actual summit itself. Now, what I would also consider doing is I like what I call a casual call to action during the show. So if you're doing a topic that brings up something related to the summit or keeping things low sugar, then just do a quick little shout out. Hey, and by the way, don't forget the Low Sugar Summit is coming up. Make sure that you go to the blah, 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 the link in the show notes or whatever you got, vanity URL, but just do a really quick reference like that. You could also run little micro ads. If you have a clip or a quote that's 90 seconds or so from the interview you did with the person running the summit, you could run a mid-roll ad. We're like, hey, and real quick, we're talking low sugar today. Don't forget the Low Sugar Summit's coming up. Here's a quick snippet of our interview we did with whoever the person is, and you could drop something like that to kind of plug it a little bit. So little things like that, I think, really do well, because a lot of people tend to fast forward through intros and skip outros. So some sort of mid-roll in the moment. I wouldn't do a canned thing unless it's a clip of that interview like I talked about. But a casual call to action in the flow of the episode can be pretty potent. So let's try those out. All right, next question.
My name is Jo from the Aligned with Purpose podcast, and my biggest win was finding Threads and finding podcasting business school on Threads, because I put one post on there and I got over 3,000 views for guests to come on my podcast. So that was a massive win for me. The question I have is, my podcast is called Aligned with Purpose in Love and Life, and I'm now looking at having my logo redesigned and changing the name slightly to Love, Life and Purpose. Find your path to true alignment. So currently it's Aligned with Purpose in Love and Life, and I would value your thoughts and feedback on that.
Great question, Jo. First, let's talk about this win. You're getting things cranking on Threads. I love that app. I love it, love it, love it. You guys know this. It's just something that's probably my win of 2024. It's just getting active on Threads and seeing the magic that is happening there. So I'm glad that you found Threads and you found me on Threads, and now you're out there working that Threads app and seeing the benefits. So let's talk about this name. All right. Phrases like aligned with purpose, love, light, purpose, all those things are I know in your creative mind, you're like, this is what the show is about. But me looking at it from the outside, I have no idea what that show is about. And that's a problem. All right. And I say this with love, light, and purpose. All right. I'm not, you guys know how I coach. I'll give it to you straight. I'll just put it that way. All right. I wish somebody would have just sat me down and talked to me as a podcast mentor back in the day and helped me fix things. So with this show, if it's about love, ask yourself, is it about relationships? Because relationships is a highly searched word. Is it about marriage? Is it about personal growth? Is it about mindset? Is it about mindfulness? Those are great keywords that we can leverage in a title. I don't know who this is for. Is it for females? Is it for female entrepreneurs? Is it for mothers? Is it for a certain religion, Christians, or things like that? So we need to get some of the who it's for, and we got to get some keywords in there. And whether that's in a rebranded title or whether that is in a title extension, that is my main suggestion to you, is looking at words that people actually search. We all have to look at the name of our show and look at each individual word and go, is anybody searching for any of these words? And I don't see people searching alignment or light, even purpose. I don't. Motivation, goal setting, like what? We have to go a little more specific than just the word purpose. All right. So, I think that is my suggestion for you. And hopefully that is well received. And I think that will serve you well in 2025. So let's do it. All right. Next question.
This is Jules White from the Website Success Show podcast. My podcasting win of 2024 was launching my podcast and getting to 2,500 downloads without promoting it on social media or paid ads. My question for Adam is, what do you think are the biggest trends in 2025 for podcasts? Thank you so much, Adam, for all the great content you've created this year. You've really helped me. I don't think I would have started my podcast had I not been listening to your show and the amazing advice that you give.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jules. This is becoming the Adam Ego Boost episode. So thank you to everybody that's boosting my ego with your very kind comments and compliments. All right. Great win. Congrats on launching. I just put up a post on Threads yesterday that the podcast that is launched is better than the podcast that sits in your head as an idea for another year. So well done. I'm glad that you are no longer podcrastinating and you are out there being a pod pal. Well done. And let's talk about wins. Let's talk about trends. We've talked about your win. Now we're talking about the trends of 2025. And here's what I'm noticing. This deserves a full episode, and this episode will be coming. Like I said, I'm going to talk a lot more about efficiency because I feel like we are entering another podcast launch boom. It happened in 2020 during the pandemic. People were sitting home. I'm going to launch a podcast, and all those people burned out. They kind of washed out pretty quick. Lots of podcasts launched in 2020, 2021, and then they were all gone by 2022. I feel like the podcast momentum, the podcast bug is hitting a lot of people again, and a lot of people are coming into space launching their show. At the same time, there's a giant peer pressure push happening for video content. You don't have a podcast unless it's video. You've got to be editing and loading video on YouTube and Spotify and Instagram Reels and TikTok and all this video stuff that is super time consuming. So I feel like the trend is people are going to buy into that and they're going to burn out and quick, and we're going to see a whole bunch of people launch and a whole bunch of people quit again. Or they will find my show and I will tell them, hey, guess what? This is audio only. I mean, I put some video stuff out there, but I have dialed it back 99.9% in 2024. Stop doing TikTok videos, stop doing Reels, don't load to YouTube anymore, like almost zero video content. We're getting ready to cross 1.2 million downloads, and that's saying something. Best year I've ever had in business, that's saying something. Most engagement I've ever had, that's saying something. So a trend that I'm going to try to lead the way in is simplification. And instead of spending an hour or two editing YouTube videos, let's create like 4, 5, 6 podcast episodes, audio, and let's get ahead by 2 or 3 weeks so that you can take breaks. And let's do this at a cadence and a pace that is survivable so that you can keep podcasting. When someone tells me they launch a podcast, I do not assume that they have a YouTube channel. That's just me. I'm OG 2015 podcaster. Like, when somebody tells me they have a podcast, I assume that it's audio. And then maybe there's a video component. I applaud that, and that's cool. But I don't know. I just want to put the word out there that you do not have to jack around with all this video stuff, especially if you're really short on time. If you're already burnt out, it's not as necessary as everybody in the industry is making it sound, and all that pressure around it is making you think. So let's keep that in mind. Great question. We've got one more for this episode. Let's do this.
This is Kimberly Kane from the Naked Vibes Show. My podcasting win of 2024 was getting my show back up and running after taking a hiatus to help a family member. Feels great to be at episode 70 now. Adam, I love your advice on adding a subtitle for discoverability. So I asked my provider, which is Blueberry, where to make the change. They warned me to be aware that Apple sometimes removes podcasts for titles they consider to have keyword stuffing. What do you think of adding this to my show title? Energy tools for the artist, leader, entrepreneur, the Naked Vibe Show, or the Naked Vibe Show, energy tools for the artist, leader, entrepreneur. I prefer that, but I know that you said it could be even better to put that subtitle in the beginning. Thank you, Adam, for a great podcast and for answering this question.
Kimberly, congrats on getting back to it. That's a heavy lift. That's a hard thing to do. When you go inactive for a matter of months and then bring it back and get restarted, there's all sorts of, there's some mental stuff there. It's like, I had this relationship that you built with your audience, and we kind of beat ourselves up about that, a little bit guilty for checking out for a little bit and then coming back. That can be a really hard thing to do. So I applaud you making that journey and getting back to it and just coming back and serving your audience. So congrats, great job. Now, I think those keywords that you mentioned are really going to help. So I don't think if you make those at the beginning, I think that'll benefit you a little bit more. If you make that a subtitle, I think that'll still help you. Artist, leader, entrepreneur, those are searchable terms. Those are going to work. I've seen them work. Let's talk about the other point that you brought up with your host saying, oh, be careful, watch out, keyword stuffing. Back when I first launched in 2015, there was an issue with keyword stuffing. It wasn't really keyword stuffing, but it kind of was. So what was happening in the host description, people would put, I interview people like Oprah, Dr. Oz. Like, they would just name all these like giant people that were famous back in the day, back in 2015. And they would just name celebrities and doctors and medical influencers or whatever. But they didn't actually interview those people. It would be, I interview people like these people. So they're not technically lying, but they cracked down on that and they did start pulling shows. Now, so some people are still worried about that. And I don't recommend doing any of that. That's we don't want to use that technique. I don't teach it. I don't recommend it. With adding keywords and subtitles to the title line, I feel like as long as it makes sense, like Apple needs to come out and say, hey, or just set a character limit on a title. If they want to limit this, then they need to come out and say, hey, it can only be X amount of characters, and that's all you get. And then that's fine. So we need more regulation and guidance before they start spreading rumors of, oh, well, this is keyword stuffing because you have lots of keywords. Like, well, that's what I'm freaking trying to do, bro. I'm trying to get as many keywords in this title as possible. That's called optimization. That's how solo independent entrepreneurs and podcasters can compete with the people with the big budgets, big brands, and famous. Like, if they want podcasting to just be celebrities and famous people, then do that. Then start doing things to limit the ability for somebody like myself to compete. But I think they want podcasting. I think they know that the independent creator is good for podcasting, and more people podcasting is good for podcasting. All right. So I feel like as long as your title/subtitle is applicable to what you're talking about and it's in sentence format, I think it's fine. And here's the thing. I switch up my subtitle every 90 days to try different things. I've never been flagged. I've never been taken down. I don't see a download dip. I usually see a download increase. So right now it's Podcasting Business School : online business coaching for podcasters or something like that. So that's what I talk about, online business coaching for podcasters. Like that could be the name of the show. So all of it applies. I'm not just going Podcasting Business School, podcasting, podcaster, podcasting, podcast launch, business, marketing. I'm not just putting words there. So I think if you're going to be careful with that. If you can put it in sentence format, I think you're cool. All right. Okay. Those are our first 6 questions, Pod Pals, coming in at just under 30 minutes. Like I like it. And we're going to do another 6 on Friday in part 2 of the 2024 Wins and Q&A episode here. Today is New Year's Eve. So everybody be careful out there. Enjoy yourself. And if you have not celebrated your podcasting win, take a minute and just do that. I don't care if you launched your show, that's a great win. Maybe you got your first 100 downloads. Maybe you got your first email from a listener. Maybe somebody DM'd you on Instagram for the first time saying they love an episode. Maybe you hit 10,000 downloads. Maybe you hit 1 million downloads. Maybe you made $1 million. Maybe you made $1. I don't care. Celebrate it. This is something that got me through. I didn't know any other podcasters when I launched. I didn't know what in the hell I was doing. I just knew that I loved this medium. I saw the potential. I saw people that were similar to me. That I didn't see a lot of difference between me and the people that were being successful. Let's just put it that way. I was like, if that person can do it or these people can do it, I'm pretty sure I can do it too. And I hope that when you all listen to this show, you feel the same way. Like this Adam dude is a normal person. He's not famous. He doesn't have a giant team. He's an independent podcaster that is just putting in work. And I'll tell you, Pod Pals, if you just put in work, the wins will start to not only pile up, but you'll start to see exponential growth with your wins. Dozens of comments on social media, lots of emails saying, I love this episode. People submitting audio for year-end wins. If you would have told me in 2015 that I would have to like edit out and not include some people that submitted audio for my show, I would have thought you were crazy. That I had to pick only 12 out of all the submissions, I would have said, you're freaking crazy. But here we are. And it took me 9 years to hit 1 million downloads, but I hit 1 million downloads because I didn't quit. All right, so that is your motivational moment for this episode. We will continue this conversation in the next episode on Friday. That'll be the first episode of 2025, but it'll be the same format, 6 more wins from the audience and 6 more questions from those audience members. Pod Pals, I appreciate you. Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. Take a moment, celebrate a win. If you feel like sharing it, share it my direction. Hit me up on social media or post it out there. Tag me. I am excited to celebrate with you. All right. Until Friday, I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We will see you on Friday's episode. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.